It all started with a lawsuit that shook Hollywood, but the real twist just dropped. A federal judge has officially shut down Justin Baldoni's explosive $400 million countersuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and the way it ended has everyone talking. No dramatic courtroom showdown. No fiery last-minute filing. Just silence from Baldoni's side, and a quiet legal move that slammed the door on the entire case. But here's the part no one expected. This isn't the end of the war. It's only the end of his counterattack. Lively's original lawsuit is still alive, still moving forward, and still aimed directly at Baldoni. And what happens next could get even messier. The feud didn't spark out of nowhere. It erupted after months of tension behind the scenes of It Ends With Us. Everything shifted last December, when Blake Lively filed a bombshell lawsuit accusing Justin Baldoni of misconduct on set, and what she described as a retaliatory smear campaign. Once, she pushed back. Overnight, a film that was supposed to be a career milestone turned into the center of a Hollywood firestorm. But Baldoni didn't stay quiet. Not even for a moment. Reports claim he felt blindsided, insisting the allegations were not just false, but part of a larger attempt to destroy his reputation. And instead of waiting for the dust to settle, he launched a massive counterstrike, a staggering $400 million countersuit targeting Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and her longtime publicist. In his filing, he accused them of spreading damaging claims, coordinating behind the scenes, and tanking his standing in the industry. And he didn't stop there. Baldoni also went after the New York Times with a separate $250 million lawsuit, saying their coverage fueled the damage. For Hollywood insiders, it felt like the drama had jumped off the set and straight into a real-life legal thriller. But this was only the beginning. June 2025 delivered the first major crack in Baldoni's legal armor, and it hit harder than anyone expected. On June 9th, U.S. District Judge Louis Lyman issued a ruling that sent shockwaves through the entire case. Baldoni's massive $400 million countersuit was tossed out. Not trimmed down. Not partially upheld. Completely dismissed. And the reason stunned a lot of people watching the drama unfold. The judge ruled that Blake Lively's harassment allegations, the same ones Baldoni said ruined his career, were legally protected. Because she made those claims to a California agency, the law shielded her statements from being used as the foundation of a defamation case. In other words, even if Baldoni disagreed with every word, the court said he couldn't sue her for them. But the blow didn't stop there. His separate $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times also collapsed. The judge said Baldoni's arguments didn't show there was any real contract or agreement the Times violated, leaving that claim dead in the water. Still, the court gave Baldoni one tiny opening, permission to file a much narrower amended complaint, focusing only on potential contract issues and interference. It was nothing close to the sweeping, explosive claims he had originally made, but it was something. The question was whether Baldoni would take that lifeline and what he would do next. But instead of fighting his way back into the courtroom, Baldoni did something no one expected. He walked away from the only lifeline the judge left him. After the June dismissal, the court gave him a simple option: file a tighter, stripped-down version of his lawsuit by late June, focusing only on contract interference and similar claims. Nothing sensational. Nothing explosive. Just the bare-bones legal arguments the judge said might survive. But Baldoni never filed it. Not a revision. Not an update. Not even a placeholder. His team went completely silent. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that the narrowed lawsuit wasn't worth pursuing. Reports suggest his camp believed a trimmed-down complaint wouldn't tell the story they wanted or land the impact they hoped for. And instead of returning to court with a smaller case, Baldoni's lawyer issued a statement blasting the dismissal itself, calling Lively's celebration predictable and insisting the truth was still on their side. It was a bold PR move, but a risky legal one. Because by refusing to refile, Baldoni didn't just pause the countersuit. He left the door wide open for the judge to shut it permanently. And that's exactly what would happen next. By October, the judge's patience had officially run out. After months of silence from Baldoni's side, U.S. District Judge Louis Lyman issued one last warning, a formal notice sent out on October 17th asking Baldoni and his Wayfair Studios team to explain why the case shouldn't be closed for good. All they had to do was respond. One message, one argument, one reason to keep the countersuit alive. But nothing came back. Not a single filing. Not a single objection. Not even a request for more time. The only person who responded was Blake Lively, and she did the exact opposite. She asked the court to finalize the judgment and officially end the $400 million countersuit, while keeping her request for attorney's fees active. And the judge agreed. So on October 31, Judge Lyman signed the order that sealed Baldoni's fate. With one signature, the entire countersuit was formally dead. No dramatic last-minute twist. No surprise evidence dump. Just a quiet, legal full stop. For Hollywood watchers, it felt like a stunning surrender. A massive lawsuit that once threatened to reshape the narrative around the "It Ends With Us" scandal simply vanished. But if anyone thought this meant the larger war was over, they were wrong. Because with the countersuit gone, the spotlight swung right back to the original case, the one that could drag both stars into an even more explosive showdown. The judge didn't shut down Baldoni's case on a whim. The legal reasoning was sharp, detailed, and left almost no room for revival. At the heart of it was one powerful rule. Blake Lively's harassment allegations were protected under California law. Because she reported those claims to a state agency, the law treats her statements as privileged. That means they can't be used as the basis for defamation, no matter how strongly Baldoni disputes them. It's the same survivor protection framework built in the wake of #MeToo, designed to keep people from being sued for coming forward. And Judge Lyman made it clear this protection wasn't up for debate. He also pointed out another fatal issue in Baldoni's filing. He never convincingly argued that Lively, Ryan Reynolds, or anyone in her circle actually doubted her claims before repeating them. In defamation law, proving someone spread something they knew was false is essential. But Baldoni's lawsuit didn't meet that bar. The judge described the sweeping allegations as legally thin, even calling portions of the giant complaint overly bloated and unfocused. His attack on the New York Times didn't fare any better. Baldoni insisted the Times had broken a supposed agreement regarding coverage, but the judge flatly rejected the idea. According to the ruling, the emails Baldoni relied on didn't show any real or enforceable contract, not even an implied one. Without that foundation, the $250 million claim collapsed instantly. Piece by piece, the legal pillars Baldoni needed just weren't there. And once the judge laid out the flaws, it became painfully clear. The countersuit wasn't just weakened, it was unsalvageable. But even with this chapter closed, the next phase of the war was already waiting in the wings. The reactions on both sides couldn't have been more different, almost like two completely separate versions of the same story. Blake Lively's team celebrated the dismissal as a total victory. Her lawyers called the judge's decision a complete vindication, the clearest possible confirmation that the massive $400 million countersuit never held weight in the first place. And Lively herself didn't stay silent. She posted a raw message online, opening up about the emotional toll of what she described as a retaliatory lawsuit. She talked about the shame these cases try to pin on women and how most people don't have the resources to fight back. Her tone wasn't triumphant. It was relieved, grateful, and fiercely protective of anyone who's ever been scared to speak up. But Baldoni's camp fired back quickly. His lawyer blasted Lively's celebration as predictable and false, insisting the dismissal didn't mean what her team claimed it did. According to him, this case was always about what he called false accusations and a smear campaign, allegations he maintains never happened. His statement suggested that the truth is still on their side, hinting that the fight isn't as one-sided as the headlines make it seem. It was a striking contrast, one side calling it justice, the other calling it spin. And with both narratives clashing in public, the question hanging over Hollywood was simple: which version would the courts ultimately believe? With the countersuit officially buried, the spotlight swings right back to the lawsuit that started it all, Blake Lively's original claims against Justin Baldoni. And this is where things get even more intense. Her case is still very much alive, still moving through the courts, and still headed straight for a public showdown. A trial date has already been set for March 2026, which means both sides now have a long runway to prepare, and plenty of time for more evidence, more statements, and more unexpected twists to emerge. Legal experts say that without the countersuit distracting the narrative, the focus now shifts entirely to Lively's allegations and Baldoni's response. And that shift could reshape the power balance in this entire Hollywood feud. But here's the part keeping everyone on edge: Baldoni can still appeal the judge's final judgment. His team is waiting for one more ruling, the decision on whether Baldoni has to pay Lively's attorney's fees. Once that's finalized, he'll have the window to challenge the dismissal and try to drag the countersuit back into play. Whether he will is the mystery. For now, though, the battlefield is clear. Lively's lawsuit moves forward. Baldoni's massive counterattack is gone. And both stars are heading toward a March 2026 trial that could pull even more private tensions into the public eye. The war isn't finished. It's just entering its most unpredictable chapter yet. Zooming out, this case is bigger than a feud between two stars. It's exposing a massive shift in how Hollywood handles accusations, power, and retaliation. Judge Lyman's ruling didn't just end a lawsuit. It highlighted how the rules have changed since the #MeToo era. Laws like California's Survivor Protection Statute now give real weight to people who come forward, shielding their claims from the kind of massive defamation suits that used to scare many into silence. And Baldoni's failed countersuit is already being talked about as a warning shot to anyone thinking of using overwhelming financial pressure to fight back against allegations. At the same time, the situation raises uncomfortable questions about Hollywood's internal power dynamics. Some insiders say this case proves the system is evolving, that survivors aren't as easily intimidated anymore. Others argue it shows how quickly reputations can be publicly shredded, even before a jury ever hears the facts. Both perspectives are fueling heated debates online about who gets believed, who gets protected, and who gets punished. And for Baldoni and Lively, the implications stretch far beyond one courtroom. Their careers, their public images, and the long-term narrative around It Ends With Us are all on the line. The court's rulings could set a precedent that shapes how future misconduct allegations and the lawsuits that follow are handled across the industry. One thing is clear: this isn't just gossip. It's a turning point in how Hollywood handles truth, power, and accountability.